Lewis Hamilton betrays Ferrari to switch to Mercedes before the Singapore Grand Prix. Watch until the end to find out when Ferrari will leak the news and be the first to know. Subscribe to stay informed about the latest Formula One news. From the moment hushed conversations started moving quietly between engineers, mechanics, and insiders in the Formula One paddock, there was disbelief so strong that many brushed the talk aside as fantasy. Yet the more those whispers circulated, the harder they became to ignore. What seemed impossible began to take shape. Lewis Hamilton, the figure Ferrari had paraded as their ultimate symbol of revival, was no longer committed to the deal that had been announced with global fanfare. The contract that was supposed to seal his career in legendary fashion, turning him into the hero who restored championships to Maranello, was being quietly unraveled. Behind the curtains, away from cameras and microphones, Hamilton had set his sights on something far bolder, reaching back to the partnership that had defined his golden era. With Toto Wolff at his side, he was moving step by step toward an astonishing return to Mercedes. What made this so extraordinary was not only the secrecy but the determination behind it. This was no impulsive betrayal born in anger. It was a calculated decision, driven by Hamilton's conviction that Ferrari's structure could not deliver the consistency, precision, and unity required to win titles before the clock of his career ran down. He had lived through months of frustration, from questionable strategies to costly errors that stripped away podiums he should have claimed. Trust was gone, patience was gone, and the glow of wearing Ferrari red no longer matched the reality of being stranded in midfield battles when he had come to fight for wins. By early summer, those close to him could see it. Hamilton was preparing to walk away, and his silence in front of the cameras was itself an answer. The way he reconnected with Wolff could have been scripted for cinema. Meetings were arranged with such care that only a handful of people knew. They met in hidden places far from team motorhomes and airports where photographers lurk, and when distance made face-to-face impossible, they used secure, encrypted lines, speaking late at night when the rest of the paddock slept. The old rhythm between them was instant. Wolff had never stopped believing Hamilton was the most effective driver to carry Mercedes' badge, and Hamilton made it clear that Ferrari's chaos had left him hungry for one more run at glory under Wolff's leadership. The two did not waste time. The idea of reuniting was not treated as speculation but as a mission, and they began laying the pieces down rapidly, with focus and precision. The most delicate part was the financial structure. Hamilton had no interest in chasing the biggest paycheck, yet he also wanted a figure that recognized his value without giving critics ammunition to say his move was about money. Negotiations dragged into long nights, stretching for hours, each detail examined and adjusted. Eventually, they agreed on a sum of $20 million per year. Far lower than the amounts he once commanded, but rich in meaning. It was a figure that symbolized respect without excess, commitment without vanity. For Wolff, it was a contract that told the world this return was not about extravagance but about ambition. And layered into it were incentives that would allow Hamilton to earn far more if he brought Mercedes back to the top. Every race win, every title challenge, every step toward the front of the grid would directly boost his earnings, tying his financial rewards to the success he and Mercedes carved out together. As the story has broken, the effect on Formula One has been seismic. Ferrari supporters are furious, stunned that the man they believed would carry them back to the heights of the Schumacher years is preparing to leave before delivering a single championship. Within Mercedes, excitement mixes with unease as speculation swirls about which driver might lose their seat to make way for Hamilton. Rival teams are already whispering about how his presence could shift the balance of power, tilting the competitive order in unpredictable directions. The fan reaction has been explosive, millions celebrating the possibility of seeing Hamilton back in silver, millions more condemning him for walking out on the Scuderia. The drama is not only about contracts or strategy but about identity, loyalty, and ambition at the highest level of the sport. Hamilton, however, has always thrived in moments like this. He is not the type to let his story drift into disappointment or fade into irrelevance. He is taking back control, ensuring that his final chapters are written on his terms, with a team that understands him best, alongside the leader who once built an empire around him. For Wolff, it is a chance to restore Mercedes to dominance, to rebuild the unstoppable force that once terrified the grid. And for Formula One, it is a storyline that embodies everything fans love: betrayal, risk, redemption, ambition, and the relentless pursuit of greatness. The most dramatic element of the entire saga was not the lawyers poring over contracts or the paperwork shuffled behind closed doors, but the human impact inside Mercedes, where futures collided in a way that exposed the ruthless nature of Formula One. At the center of the storm stood Andrea Kimi Antonelli, the Italian wonderkid who for years had been treated as the crown jewel of Mercedes' development program. His journey had been carefully engineered, step by step, from karting circuits to junior formulas, with every victory reinforcing the belief that he was destined to become the new face of the team. Within Brackley, Antonelli was spoken of not as a prospect but as inevitability itself, the successor to Hamilton's empire, the talent who would guarantee Mercedes' presence at the front for the next decade. He had been promised patience, investment, and a future that was now ripped away in an instant. When Lewis Hamilton suddenly became available, the plan unraveled. Toto Wolff, notorious for making merciless decisions when the future of the team demanded it, did not blink. He summoned Antonelli for a private discussion, a meeting described by insiders as chillingly clear. Wolff did not disguise the reality. There was no longer a seat for Antonelli. Hamilton's return demanded sacrifice, and it was Antonelli who would pay the price. Wolff's tone was respectful, but his message carried the weight of inevitability. When the most successful driver in the history of the sport offers himself, hesitation is unforgivable. Red Bull's dominance, McLaren's revival, and Ferrari's renewed aggression left Mercedes no room for half measures. Hamilton was not simply an option, he was the decisive weapon they could not afford to ignore. Antonelli, though devastated, responded with remarkable composure. He sat quietly, absorbing the blow, and when he spoke, he admitted the pain of losing what had seemed like destiny but acknowledged the magnitude of Hamilton's return. He recognized that this was not just a reshuffling of drivers, but a transformation of the competitive landscape itself. Those close to him later revealed the heartbreak behind his calm acceptance. But in the room, he carried himself with dignity, as though aware that history sometimes demands personal sacrifice. While Mercedes executed its decision with cold efficiency, Ferrari was caught in a whirlwind of chaos and disbelief. Unaware of the silent work being carried out by Hamilton's management team, the Scuderia was blindsided. Hidden in the dense legal text of Hamilton's contract was an escape mechanism that allowed him to walk away penalty-free if triggered before September 30th. This clause had gone unnoticed by Ferrari's leadership, but Hamilton's lawyers had identified it months earlier, guarding it like a secret weapon. It was the key that unlocked his freedom, the loophole that transformed Ferrari's crown jewel into a temporary guest. By the time the realization reached Maranello, Hamilton's path was already set. The news struck Ferrari like a lightning bolt. After years of political infighting, failed strategies, and false dawns, the team had finally secured Hamilton as the figure meant to restore their legend. Fans had envisioned him as the savior, the driver who would end the drought that stretched back to 2007, the champion who would stand on Monza's podium with the Italian flag draped over his shoulders. Instead, they were faced with abandonment before a season had even reached its end. The reaction among the Tifosi was nothing short of volcanic. Supporters poured their heartbreak onto social media, describing the move as betrayal, treason, and humiliation. The man they had embraced as a messiah was suddenly the villain who had walked away at the first chance, exploiting a contract clause that left Ferrari powerless. For fans who had endured disappointment after disappointment, Hamilton's departure was not just a transfer, it was the destruction of a dream they had clung to with blind faith. Mercedes has been maneuvering with extraordinary subtlety, operating almost in complete silence while constructing a plan that feels both surgical and inevitable. Behind closed doors in Brackley, the focus has been absolute, as if every member of the organization has been tasked with one mission only: to bring Lewis Hamilton back into the car in the smoothest, most effective way possible. It is said that Toto Wolff has already initiated the process of tailoring the W16 around Hamilton's physical and technical preferences, ensuring that the car becomes an extension of his body from the very first lap. Adjustments are underway not only to the cockpit but to every detail that shapes the driver's comfort and control, from the ergonomics of the seat to the precision of the pedal box. Engineers who once stood alongside him during Mercedes' era of dominance have been reactivated, carrying with them an archive of knowledge, a memory bank of telemetry, and the intimate understanding of what made Hamilton and Mercedes so formidable together. They have been revisiting past data models, recalibrating them with today's technology, and merging old insights with fresh developments so that his reintegration feels seamless rather than new. The simulators have become the heartbeat of this preparation. They have been tuned meticulously to Hamilton's exact driving characteristics, replicating the subtleties of his style with uncanny precision. Specialists inside the program have reportedly gone as far as recreating the minute details of how he manages tires over long stints, how he modulates energy recovery, and how he adapts in unpredictable race conditions. Hamilton's influence is already embedded in the digital car, even before he has physically returned, and insiders claim that his feedback will be incorporated so aggressively that by the time he arrives at the circuit, the car will feel like a natural fit. This is not just an exercise in simulation, it is a reawakening of the bond that once defined Formula One's most dominant partnership. Choosing Singapore as the stage for his comeback adds a dimension of drama and calculation that is unmistakable. Under the shimmering lights of Marina Bay, Hamilton will climb back into silver, and the symbolism is undeniable. The race is grueling, mentally exhausting, and visually spectacular, a perfect combination for a return that is meant to be both a statement and a spectacle. The city itself, buzzing with energy, mirrors the intensity of what Mercedes wants to project, a champion returning not quietly, but under the glare of the floodlights, in a setting that magnifies everything. Wolff knows the image will be unforgettable, Hamilton once again in silver, under the night sky, facing one of the hardest challenges Formula One can offer. But this decision is more than symbolic. The Marina Bay circuit is a brutal test, exposing every weakness in machinery and magnifying every error from a driver. It is a race that demands absolute concentration, supreme physical endurance, and a level of precision that only a select few can sustain for nearly 2 hours of relentless pressure. It has historically been one of Hamilton's strongest arenas, a track where his patience, timing, and control have often produced victories that seemed impossible. By setting his return at such a venue, Mercedes is not merely aiming for attention, it is deliberately placing Hamilton in an environment where his qualities are most likely to shine instantly, erasing doubts and reasserting his presence at the sharp end of the sport. The psychological shock of this move is already rippling through the paddock. Competitors are recalculating, realizing that the re-emergence of Hamilton in a Mercedes is not just a nostalgic gesture but a genuine threat. Teams that thought the spotlight had shifted are forced to accept that the narrative is shifting back again. For drivers, the knowledge that Hamilton will once more be in silver underlines the reality that he is far from done, that his competitive fire remains unbroken. Every lap he completes in Singapore will carry a weight that goes beyond lap time. It will remind everyone watching that champions of his caliber never truly fade away. This is not simply the story of a reunion, it is the deliberate creation of a moment designed to reshape the season and unsettle the balance of power. With the combination of flawless preparation, symbolic power, and Hamilton's sheer determination, his return to Mercedes in Singapore is poised to become one of those rare turning points that redefine the narrative of Formula One. The return of Lewis Hamilton to Mercedes has created an atmosphere so charged that every corner of the paddock feels as if it is vibrating with anticipation. This is not being spoken of as a routine move, nor as the natural winding down of a career, but as a dramatic shift in the balance of power. Rivals are unsettled, journalists are feeding on every fragment of information, and fans sense that something monumental is unfolding before their eyes. Ferrari, once confident that they would shape Hamilton's legacy with a final chapter in red, have been left disoriented and bruised. Outwardly they will attempt to maintain composure, presenting his departure as part of the ebb and flow of the sport, but those who understand the inner workings of Maranello know that behind the official statements lies a sense of shock and disappointment. Losing Hamilton is not just about losing a driver, it represents a blow to pride, a reminder that even the most storied team can be caught unprepared when trust is broken. Mercedes approaches the situation from an entirely different perspective. For them, this is not about nostalgia or sentimentality, but about reasserting control over the sport's narrative. Hamilton's return is a deliberate strike, a move that forces every rival to rethink their strategies, unsettles the rhythm of Red Bull, and throws Ferrari into a state of uncertainty. The psychological weight of his presence is enough to shift the atmosphere around every Grand Prix. Beyond the garages and pit walls, the consequences are already visible. Global brands are once again gravitating toward Mercedes, eager to be associated with a story of renewal and resurgence. Broadcasters prepare to capitalize on the heightened interest, aware that Hamilton's name draws attention far beyond the core Formula One audience. The comeback has sparked conversations not only among fans but within rival boardrooms, where executives understand that the sport has just been reshaped by a single decision. Hamilton himself has mastered the art of controlling the narrative. Publicly, his words have been carefully chosen, offering only glimpses into his mindset. Phrases like unfinished business and hints about timing are designed to fuel speculation without revealing his true intentions. Yet those closest to him paint a very different picture behind closed doors. In private, Hamilton is described as sharper than ever, intensely motivated, and wholly committed to the mission ahead. Training has been relentless, his interactions with engineers filled with energy and precision, his determination radiating through every discussion. He is not returning as a ceremonial figure or a legend seeking a farewell tour. He is coming back as a competitor unwilling to accept decline, a driver determined to prove that his hunger has not diminished, and that his story in Formula One will be defined on his own terms rather than dictated by others. For Toto Wolff, this reunion represents the revival of a partnership that once dictated the rhythm of the sport. Their bond is not only professional but symbolic, a reminder of an era in which their combination of leadership and talent seemed untouchable. To see Hamilton walk back into the Mercedes garage is to reignite a sense of inevitability, a belief that together they can once again bend the sport to their will. This is not merely about winning races. It is about restoring dominance, reclaiming authority, and sending a message to the rest of the grid that Mercedes has no intention of fading quietly into the background. Wolff and Hamilton together embody a force that rivals cannot ignore, a pairing that carries with it the weight of history and the threat of repeating it. Every whispered conversation in the paddock adds to the tension. Team bosses exchange nervous glances. Drivers are privately wondering what this will mean for their own prospects, and fans worldwide are bracing themselves for a season charged with storylines that transcend the racing itself. The excitement is not confined to points or podiums. It is about pride, revenge, redemption, and the rewriting of history. The sport has rarely seen such a collision of legacy and ambition, and every sign suggests that this comeback is not just another chapter but a turning point. Hamilton's presence transforms the narrative entirely, proving that legends do not fade into the background, and that when the right opportunity arises, they can return with a force powerful enough to reshape the destiny of the entire championship. Under the dazzling lights of Marina Bay, the air trembles with anticipation, the crowd buzzing with disbelief as a moment nobody could have scripted becomes reality. Lewis Hamilton, who only months ago was painted as the future of Ferrari, has torn through every expectation, abandoned the red before the year's end, and now sits once more in the cockpit of a Mercedes, his visor lowered, his focus unshakable. The familiar colors of silver and black wrap around him like armor, a powerful reminder of the dynasty he built, while Toto Wolff, calm yet calculating, stands at his side, ready to unleash a partnership that once bent the sport to its will. For Ferrari supporters, the wound is raw. They dreamed of Hamilton as the driver who would return the Scuderia to its lost dominance, who would light up Monza with triumphs worthy of their history. Instead, they are left with heartbreak and fury, forced to watch their supposed leader race under the very banner they despise. For Mercedes followers, however, the night feels like a resurrection, a return of a legend to his rightful place, the revival of a bond thought to be gone forever but reignited with the promise of unfinished glory. Every rival on the grid feels the shift. Verstappen, once untouchable, now faces the unnerving presence of the only man who has truly unsettled him. Russell, who believed he was stepping into the role of leader, must now confront the reality of competing against the figure who still casts the longest shadow in the team. Leclerc, left to pick up the shattered pieces at Ferrari, carries not only the weight of a broken alliance but also the crushing expectation of keeping his team alive without the partner who was meant to fight alongside him. The atmosphere intensifies as Hamilton grips the wheel, knowing the eyes of the world are locked on him. This is not nostalgia, not a farewell. It is defiance, ambition, and vengeance colliding in a single night, backed by a $20 million pact that proves this return is no stunt but a calculated strike. Marina Bay, with its narrow walls, brutal corners, and glowing neon spectacle, becomes the perfect arena for this drama, a place where one mistake can destroy everything but where legends can carve themselves into eternity. What happens tonight will ripple far beyond Singapore. It is not merely a race but an upheaval, a rewriting of narratives that seemed set in stone, a betrayal for some and a resurrection for others. Fans will speak of this night not as just another Grand Prix but as the turning point, the evening when Hamilton tore apart the script, when Mercedes regained its warrior, and when Formula One itself delivered a story that will echo for generations.